we haven't posted in quite a while because life has been so busy. So we figured today we'll do get to know us a little bit, a Q&A. So let's get into that right now. The very first question that we have here is, how did we meet? We've done a video on that. I'm going to let Ted dive into that a little bit.
Yeah, we have done an entire video on that. It happens to be our most popular video to this date. Everybody wants to know how we met. To summarize this, we met on an interracial dating website. And it was love at first sight. And my wife decided that, you know, she could never do better, and she married me.
Yes. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, that's actually partially true. And because I know there's going to be 5,000 people saying, what's the website? Because we always get that question, even in the videos where we give you the website.
Yeah.
What's the website? It's like, okay, we gave it to you. It's interracialdatingscentral.com. Anyhow, we met there, and it wasn't too long before I was buying a plane ticket because I lived in Oregon and she lived in Maryland. And 4 months later, we were married. I mean, I'm not going to give you all the details here because the video will go way too long, but that's essentially, in a nutshell, how it happened.
Yeah, and it's been great so far. It's been an incredible journey.
So far, she says.
5 years of greatness in this marriage. And we are truly blessed. You know, we have an amazing family and life is just incredible. So, hey, there is love out there for everyone. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
You know, and it will be your turn.
Lots of people on this channel are looking for love. That's part of the reason why we get the views that we get, because they're interested. You know, who's this couple? And how do they manage this thing? Well, first of all, I want to say God managed it. We just happen to be the recipients of His grace. And
Amen.
So here we are today.
The second question is, what cultural differences did you experience in your relationship? Boy, oh boy, I think I'm going to start that. But first of all, I don't know if you can tell from the accent, I'm from Ghana originally, and Ted is from?
I'm from Oregon.
Oregon, the great United States. He was born and raised here. I was born and raised in Ghana. I happened to be living in Maryland at the time we got married or met. But, you know, I'm Ghana born, Ghana raised, you know, Ghana everything, you know. But it's been great being married to him. I learned a lot about the American culture. I learned a lot about the American cuisine because he used to cook a lot for me at the very early stages of our relationship, in our marriage, I should say. And I learned a lot about American cuisine. It might not have been...
Yeah, I cooked 2 meals for her, and then she said, I don't know how to season my food. And from that day forward, she's cooked every dish that we've ever eaten.
Well, you have taught me a lot, and I appreciate that. Even though I taught you how to season your food, you've taught me how, you know, to eat healthy and how to decipher between carbs and
like
carbs and
buying
stuff like
organic food,
buying organic
like
food and stuff like that. And even though in Africa we eat a lot more organic because we grow most of the things that we eat,
because it just is.
It just is. So we don't really think about it. So by you opening my eyes to what is organic and what is not organic and how to just eat healthy to prolong one's life, and for that I'm grateful. And you've taught me a lot about life experiences here in America and stuff like that, and music. Oh, you've taught me a lot about music, and you know, we have our own music. We have Afrobeats, you know, but here in America it's a little different. So you've opened my eyes to film music and different types of music that life has to offer.
Yeah, well, culturally it has been an interesting experience for me too, obviously. We have her wonderful mother visiting us from Ghana, and so she brings her culture in a suitcase every time she shows up. She pops those clasps open and opens up that suitcase, and she's got traditional African attire. She's like, this one is for you, and this one is for you. Something for Proverbs, something for, of course, her daughter, my wife, and something for my mom. And the culture is just extremely family focused, which is super important to me. I was used to being single for a long time. I'm a little bit late to this marriage game. I dated and nothing ever worked out, and so finally God brought it upon my life, and I'm just enriched.
When it's the right time and the right person, God says yes. So the next question is, did our families have any initial concerns when it came to our relationship? Woo! Let's get into that. My family, when it came to my mother, my siblings, they did not really have any concern with me marrying a Caucasian man. However, I did have some stumbling block along the way when it came to some relatives. It wasn't an easy thing to tell people that I was going to marry a Caucasian man. Not a lot of people understood that. And so I had to really stand my grounds, and I had to put my big girl pants on and say, this is what I want. This is who I want to be with. Either you accept it or you don't. And, I bumped a lot of heads along the way. But 5 years later, I will say, however, it is one of the best decisions I've made for my life and for the life of my family. I am so glad I didn't listen to what anyone else was saying. And I trusted God, and I trusted that my mother had the right guidance for me, and my brothers and sisters had the right guidance for me. And some of my other family members as well had the right guidance for me. And so to anyone else who said no, unfortunately, it might not have been their cup of tea, but to me, that was what was meant for me.
Yeah, and it really does boil down to that. Maybe it's not for them, but you do you. The difference of race didn't bother either one of us. Regardless, clearly, because we met on Interracial Dating Central. So, and I've always been attracted to Black women, so that's part of the reason why I was there. And, my wife must have been attracted to white men or men of another race at the very least. Or wondering about that. I think that's what it was.
I think the curiosity was what, because I was in a relationship from someone with the same background as me, different cultures, obviously. And that just really ended terribly. It wasn't the right relationship for me. It doesn't mean that he was a bad person or anything like that. The relationship just wasn't the right fit for me. And so a friend of mine had just randomly suggested me trying, this site. And the site, we were having a conversation, it popped up on my Facebook page. And I was like, what is this? It's like sometimes Facebook listens to you. So the friend then suggested that I try it out, and she encouraged it. And I was like, okay, you know what? Let me give this a try. A couple of weeks later, I'm talking to this guy, my friend is like encouraging me, supporting me, pushing me. I owe this all to her. I always mention her name, Catherine. She's truly incredible. And so she pushed this and she supported this. And sometimes you need that motivation. You need that person that will motivate you and say that this is the right person for you. And, do that, and sometimes you have a lot of naysayers in the background, but as long as you have that one person supporting and pushing you, you can break bounds. And that's what happened for me.
I didn't have any vocal naysayers. So my family was really supportive. And they had no issue with the interracial thing at all. And so I've been blessed that way. And frankly, though, I wouldn't have cared if they did have a problem with it. Most of my life, not because I have a heart of rebellion, but most of my life, I've always kind of fallen into this groove that's a little bit off the beaten path. I've always been a little bit different. My taste in music, just everything about me is a little bit out of step. And that's just the way I am. There are a lot of people that have come together on the internet that have found each other that would otherwise have felt alone because they're just a little bit different and they can never find a place to fit in, so to speak. But anyway, Veronica is my person, and I like to think that I'm her person, and that's why this works. And God knew best. I mean, he was directing and guiding our hearts, and so that's why we found each other when we did.
The next question is, have you faced any stereotypes or misconceptions about interracial couples or interracial dating in general? Yes, we have.
Yeah, well, do you want to go ahead and talk on this one for a minute?
How about you go first? You go first.
I was just going to go right into the fact that we've been on YouTube now for, I want to say about 4 years.
Yeah.
I kind of lost track of time. We've been married 5 years.
I think we started a year after we got married.
Yeah, thereabouts. And so my point being, obviously, is that we've been on YouTube long enough to have gotten all kinds of comments from, the greatest comments that you could have ever imagined to comments that would just blow your mind. They're so ugly and hate-filled and bigoted and racist and just like anti who we are and what we are as an interracial couple. And so yes, I mean, we've fallen into these stereotypes, and people will make assumptions, these keyboard jockeys or whatever, like they have no idea who we are, so to speak. I mean, we're pretty transparent on YouTube, so you can get to know us, but I just mean, like, no one really knows who you are unless you're like, and so they're making all these assumptions about us. So and that's just YouTube. That's just you two.
So we have heard a lot of stereotypical stuff. Like one of the ones that sticks out to me is, just because we are in an interracial relationship, we don't like dating people from our backgrounds, and that is far from the truth. I've dated people from my background my entire life. When I say my background, Black people, I've dated Black men my entire life. It just happened to not have worked for me. It does not mean that we don't like, that we do, but it just happens to be that we fell in love when we happen to be from different background. We still, if we had not met or if we were not together, who knows? I would have been married to a Black man, Ted would have been married to a Caucasian woman, and that is all right. I think that it doesn't matter.
That wouldn't be all right with me.
Well, don't say that.
If you were married to a Black, there's no way that's going to be all right with me.
Yeah, but you know what
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I know. I know. You know what I'm saying, though, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's not who we are. That is not like our identity. Race is not our identity.
Yeah, we don't sit there and obsess about
it. It is a thing. We know it's there. But our whole being is not completely centered on that. We will, however, have conversations and address these issues.
Yeah,
but that is not, who we are. And so people have said stuff like that. Oh, so you couldn't find yourself a Black man. You couldn't be with your own people.
Right.
Oh, you traitor.
Right.
So all that kind of stuff is actually sometimes when I first, started reading the comments, I was like, that's a little much. What is one thing we admire both about each other? I can go first.
Okay.
One of the things I admire most about you is your resilience and your consistent heart at everything you do. You are so resilient. Despite everything that life has thrown at you, you are still standing. You are a hard worker and you are consistent in everything you do. When we met, you promised me that you were going to take care of me. You are going to be the man that God has designed for me. And you've been nothing short of that. You've been a blessing. You have poured into me like no other man has ever poured into me. And I love that about you.
Actually, on the same note, I always say this whenever I'm confronted with this question. The thing that I admire most about you has got to be your faith. I mean, no matter what, you're talking about the ups and downs and my resiliency and all that kind of stuff. Well, your resiliency in the prayer closet, your resiliency in faith, your resiliency to hold fast to what God has told you and to the faith is definitely grounding. And while I'm usually there, sometimes it's a little bit more difficult for me, and you always ground me back. It's like, find my center again.
So the last thing we have is, what is our favorite date night activity? What is something that we love to do whenever we have a chance to go on a date, which we don't get to do as often as we want because we are parents and we both have full-time jobs, and so sometimes it can be a little difficult to skip away and get those dates in. But we've tried lately to go on a few dates, and so I will, however, say one of my favorite date experiences that we do together is when we go into the woods. Not hiking. I do enjoy hiking, but sometimes some of the trails can be a bit difficult for me. But I do, however, love the nature aspect of things when we are walking in nature and just experiencing it. I feel like we are like being refreshed and made new when we are together under the trees.
Yeah, getting out of the house.
Yes.
My goodness, getting out and changing up the grind.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, you saying that we scarcely have time to have date nights is really where I was going to go with that.
Yes.
It's like, well, what's my favorite? Any date.
Any dates, yes. Having
a date. That's my favorite thing. That's my favorite thing about dates, is having a date.
When you are parents, you prioritize. Someone said this to me when I was pregnant with my daughter. They said, when she is born, remember that your life is not over, but she is the priority. She is the center. She is everything. And I took that lightly. But now that my daughter is here and enjoying every moment with her, we love it so much. We love every experience.
Oh, yeah.
But it can be very difficult to step away to do anything.
Some of the best dates that we've been on, Proverbs has been with us.
Yes.
Some of the most fun that we've had is, and you would say, well, maybe that's not technically a date. Well, sometimes you just have to make make it a date.
You have to make it a date.
Even if your baby is with you.
Yes.
But Proverbs has just been so fun. She's always fun. But I'm just saying, sometimes we've deliberately gone out, like, to eat, for instance, or we'll go to the zoo, or we'll do an activity that we wouldn't normally do, and like the pumpkin patch here.
Yes,
we just had Halloween happened, and she just like
she went to the pumpkin patch. She enjoyed the pumpkins, and she enjoyed the little piggies. She enjoyed the goats, and it was really fun. And we live through our kids' eyes, because there's a lot of experiences that I'm getting now that I realized I didn't have growing up.
We'll have to do this again soon, because obviously lives are more complex than a 14-minute video or so. So we'll see you again very soon, and thank you for tuning in.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.